how a millionaire client rescued me from living in my car after a shocking betrayal. Jake had always believed that hard work paid off. In the heart of a spirited Midwestern town, he ran a small repair shop that squeaked and roared like an old engine, where every day was fueled by determination. At 35, he was a single father pouring every ounce of energy into keeping his beloved daughter, Lily, smiling. The two of them made a great team, navigating life together. They would laugh over patched-up toys and spend evenings making spaghetti that splattered more on the walls than the plates. Yet the weight of imminent despair loomed over them. Everything crumbled like brittle drywall when Jake's trusted partner betrayed him. One moment, he was fixing a family car. The next, he was unemployed, broke, and grappling with the nightmare of losing everything he worked for. Now, Jake lived in the worn-out sedan he once drove to work, filled with sorrow yet fueled by love for his bright-eyed daughter. He'd wake before dawn, leave Lily sleeping in the back seat, and drive to find safe parking spots across town, always chewing on budgeting choices that barely stretched into a week. Each day dawned with fresh challenges, hunting for food, finding comfort in thin air, and most importantly, keeping the warm smile on Lily's face, the one that melted his heart. But fate smiled on Jake in the form of Walter, a wealthy businessman who strolled into his messy shop one afternoon. He needed a simple repair, a dent that marred the sleek beauty of his luxury car. As they worked side by side, Jake shared stories of hard-nosed scrapes and the grit that accompanied his trade. Below the surface chatter of tools and grease lay their connection, the American dream echoing louder than ever before, a reminder that resilience was the strongest currency. Just as Jake began to feel like a flicker of hope lit up the dark path ahead, the stark contrast of their lives tugged at the threads of their friendship. Walter lived in a world of expense and ease, while Jake wrestled with shame painted in layers of dust and loneliness. Tension thickened after Walter unwittingly let slip a remark that stirred a bitter memory of judgment. Jake erupted, fire in his eyes as he fought for his dignity and identity. Their collision of worlds left the air crackling with discomfort. Shouldn't they understand each other simply as men? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As Jake stood firm, declaring that his love for Lily superseded the shame that threatened to crush him, he struck a chord in Walter, sparking reluctant self-reflection. Paul's realization began to unfold, yet uncertainty gripped them both. Could their bond withstand the weight of bias and struggle, or would the vast chasm between their worlds swallow them whole? The future loomed like an unanswered question, leaving Jake, Walter, and little Lily teetering at the edge of an uncertain tomorrow, grappling with the essence of respect, equality, and friendship. Jake paced the cramped confines of his car, the soft rustle of Lily's blanket against the vinyl seats serving as a lullaby to hold back his worries. They were parked under the flickering streetlight, just outside the diner where he used to work part-time. The aroma of coffee and pancakes wafted through the air, mixing with memories of laughter and friendly banter. It felt like a lifetime ago, yet the urge to take a leap back into that life, one that now felt so distant, tickled at the corners of his heart. Lily stirred, her bright eyes blinking away sleep as she noticed her father's restlessness. "Dad, what's wrong?" she asked, her innocent gaze searching for answers. Jake forced a smile, trying to chase away the shadows clouding his mind. "Nothing, sweetie, just planning our day," he replied, his voice cracking slightly, melting at the sight of her trust and warmth. But deep down, Jake wondered if he could keep the facade up. He still hadn't fully processed the chaos swirling around him. After Walter's comment, he had felt a tremor shake the very foundation of his identity. The condescending tone and the privilege laced in the words echoed in his head. Did he really believe he was less than Walter because of a shattered partnership? He fought against the bitter feelings, but they clawed at him relentlessly. As they got ready for the day, thoughts turned to Walter. After their explosive confrontation, Jake had anticipated a cold shoulder. Yet deep inside, he felt an unexpected twinge of hope. Walter hadn't dismissed him. They may have stood divided by their lives, but they also shared a moment of unfiltered truth. Just then, his phone buzzed, jolting him back to reality. It was a message from Walter, a simple line that drew his brows together. "Can we talk?" Jake hesitated, fingers hovering over the screen. Would it be the thrilling offer of help or the weight of judgment he already braced himself for? Clenching his jaw, he texted back, "Sure," and added a nervous emoji for good measure. Their meeting was set for the following afternoon at the old diner. Jake could practically hear his heart thunder as he parked again under the same streetlight, his insides twisting with apprehension. Would Walter offer him a way out? Or would their differences widen the gap that floated like a chasm between them? Lily sat beside him, watching with curiosity. As he stretched his arms, a blend of anxiety and determination gleaming in his eyes. "Is everything okay, Dad?" she asked, her tiny hand squeezing his. Suddenly, he felt the weight of responsibility settle over him. His daughter depended on him for strength, while he felt like he was hanging by a thread. That evening, as they ushered the last remnants of light from the sky, Jake pulled Lily close for a tight hug. "Promise me, no matter what happens tomorrow, we're in this together," he said, as if embedding a shield of hope. She nodded, her trust infusing him with a flicker of courage. But what would happen if Walter didn't see him as an equal, if he still held on to his biases? The thought twisted deep within, filling Jake with dread. He closed his eyes, drawing in a breath, hoping for the strength and clarity that had once eluded him. As the night deepened, Jake sat silently with his thoughts, unsure if the morning light would bring clarity or deepen the shadows. With Walter's help a possibility, everything felt like a looming question mark, waiting to collide with the chaos of reality. Tension surged within him as he wrestled with what tomorrow might reveal. Could transformation be born from this? The unknown weighed heavily as the truth that remained just out of reach echoed loudly. Sometimes it takes a spark from outside to ignite change from within. What would that spark reveal? The next morning dawned with a tinge of gray, an overcast sky echoing the turbulence swirling in Jake's heart. The air felt heavy, as if each breath he took was thick with uncertainty. He glanced over at Lily, whose peaceful face framed by her tousled hair brought him a momentary glimmer of calm. "Hey, sleepyhead," he said, softly, brushing a lock of hair away from her forehead. She smiled, eyes still heavy, and snuggled deeper into her blanket. The world outside may have felt daunting, but here, in their little bubble, everything was perfect. After a hasty breakfast of toast and the last of the cold cereal, Jake wiped his hands on his jeans, the weight of the day pressing against him like an anchor. He could feel time slipping through his fingers, each tick of the clock a reminder that he was racing towards a confrontation that might change everything. "Are you ready to go, Dad?" Lily chirped, her excitement unwarranted in his mind. It reminded him of the way she used to bounce out of bed for school, innocent and fearless. "Let's do this," he whispered, half to her and half to himself, as they headed out to the car. The drive was short but fraught with tension. Jake could hardly focus on the road, his thoughts consumed by what Walter might say, what he might want. Would they go back and forth, rehashing old grievances? Or would today mark the start of something new, something hopeful? As they arrived at the diner, the familiar neon sign flickered in the gray morning. Just another day, he thought. But for him, it felt like more. He parked, took a deep, steadying breath, and opened the door. The bell above the entrance jingled lightly, a sound he once loved, now a reminder of the past that felt so out of reach. The inside was just as he remembered. Booths lined with vinyl, the clattering of dishes, and the enticing smell of freshly brewed coffee. Yet his heart raced, a drum of nerves pounding in his ears. He spotted Walter, seated at the counter, his back turned, engrossed in a menu. "Dad, who's that?" Lily asked, tugging at his sleeve. Jake's breath caught momentarily. Her innocent question made it clear how much their lives had changed. "Just a friend," he replied, his voice steady. As they approached, Jake felt an awkward tension settle between them. Walter turned, his expression shifting from casual indifference to surprise. "Jake," he said, the hint of a smile grazing his lips, almost hesitant. "Hey, Walter," Jake managed, shoving his hands into his pockets, the gesture oddly reassuring. Lily beamed up at him, her small fingers curling tightly around Jake's. "Are we having pancakes?" she asked, her eyes bright with anticipation. A chuckle escaped Walter's lips, and for a brief moment, something shifted in the atmosphere. "Absolutely! Can't come to this place and not have pancakes, right?" He nodded toward the waitress, signaling for coffee and pancakes. As they settled into a booth, the conversation began tentatively. Small talk danced around them until the air grew thicker with unspoken tension. Jake could feel Walter's gaze linger on him, sizing him up, searching for cracks in the armor Jake tried to maintain. This was more than breakfast. It was a test of character. "Jake, I want you to know," Walter started, but he faltered. Jake's heart raced. Was this it? The moment that could either reinforce their rift or bring a bridge of understanding? Just as Jake opened his mouth to respond, the waitress arrived with their food, breaking the heavy weight of silence momentarily. Yet the momentary distraction did little to ease the urgency vibrating between them. "Can we talk about what happened?" Jake's words surfaced before he could stop them, laced with raw need for clarity. Walter's eyes flickered, hesitation tightening his features. "Yeah, we can," he replied, the sincerity of his tone both promising and terrifying. Lily, oblivious to the tension, happily began shoveling pancakes onto her plate. That's when the server set a black briefcase down near their table. The sight sent Jake's pulse racing again. Walter's eyes sharp with intent, he leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I know about your situation. I might be able to help, Jake." The offer hung thick in the air, heavy with unspoken implications. The gravity of it felt surreal. A lifeline amidst chaos. But at what cost? Jake's heart thudded wildly. How far was he willing to go to reclaim his life? To protect Lily? The weight of the decision loomed large, and as he considered, silence reignited the room. "Wait," he said suddenly. "What do you mean by help?" The challenge was set, and the stakes felt impossibly high. The diner buzzed around them, life swirling, while Jake stood on the brink of a moment that could forge a new path or shatter what little remained of his pride. What did Walter truly mean with his offer? Could it lead them to something he hadn't anticipated? Walter's gaze bore into Jake, and for a moment, time suspended between them. The chatter of the diner faded away, leaving just the weight of those words hanging like a storm cloud over their table. Jake felt the corners of his mind swirl with doubt and urgency. What had Walter seen? What was at stake? "Jake, listen," Walter said, his voice low but firm. "I've been where you are. I know what it feels like to lose everything, to feel like you're running on empty." He hesitated, looking over at Lily, who was blissfully unaware of the tension between the adults. "I can help you get back on your feet. There are options." Jake's stomach twisted. The prospect of help sounded enticing, but he could already taste the bitterness of doubt. "Why now?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady despite the rising tide of uncertainty in his gut. "Why should I trust you?" Walter took a breath, a flicker of sincerity shining in his eyes. "Because I've lived through the consequences of my mistakes too. I want to atone for what happened between us, Jake. I've learned that it's never too late to make amends." Lily looked up at Jake, her eyes wide and innocent. She sensed the shift in the air, the gravity that seemed to pull her father and Walter together with invisible strings. "Are you okay, Dad?" she asked, her voice small but filled with concern. "Yeah, sweetie, just talking," Jake said, forcing a smile. He turned back to Walter, heart racing. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about protecting Lily. making sure she had a life he could be proud of. Walter leaned in closer, almost conspiratorially. I have a client who's looking for someone to help manage their properties. It's a good salary, and you'll have your own space. No more living in your car. Think about it. A job where you can rebuild, stabilize, for you and Lily. Jake's mind raced. Could this be the lifeline he so desperately needed? Yet something deep inside him screamed to be wary. And what's the catch? Walter's expression shifted, a slight shadow crossing his face. No catch, just hard work. We'd start off slow, but if it goes well, you'd be surprised how quickly things can turn around. Jake swallowed hard. All he ever wanted was to create a stable life for Lily, to give her what he felt robbed of during his own childhood. He wanted to step off the edge and take that leap, but the fear of falling back was a heavy weight anchoring him to the booth. "What about the past?" Jake asked, his voice thick with emotion. "What if this is a mistake? What if I put everything on the line and—" Walter held up a hand, cutting in before Jake could spiral further. "You can't let the past dictate your future. I hurt you. I won't pretend that's not true. But this is different. You're different." The sincerity in Walter's eyes stirred something deep within Jake. He glanced at Lily, her face lit up by the golden glow of the dim diner light, and felt the sharp pain of responsibility cut through him sharper than ever. "I'll think about it," Jake finally said, each word feeling like a pact sealed in the air between them. Lily piped up, cheeks stuffed with half-eaten pancake. "Can we have ice cream later, please?" Jake chuckled softly, the heaviness of the moment easing just a fraction. "Of course, Lily, we can do that." The momentary distraction back to simple joys felt refreshing, but as Jake peered at Walter, he could see the resolve still shadowing his demeanor. Walter nodded, his expression unreadable. "Just remember, Jake, the door is open. You know where to find me." As they finished their meal, the weight of what lay ahead loomed large. Each bite of pancake felt heavy with unformed decisions. Stepping outside into the gray morning again, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that he stood on a precipice. Would he take that leap, or would he retreat back into the comfort of old fears? "Dad, what's wrong?" Lily asked, her voice breaking through his thoughts as the cool wind brushed against them. "Nothing, honey," he said, but uncertainty gnawed at his insides. Just thinking. What lay ahead for him and Lily? Was this the turning point he'd been waiting for, or merely another dead end? As they approached the car, Jake felt the weight of his choice pressing down. The future was uncertain, yet it stirred something inside him, a flicker of hope he hadn't felt in a long time. And as he turned the key in the ignition, he realized he was not just driving away from the past, he was also driving towards something uncharted. But would he be brave enough to navigate it? Would he discover if this offered lifeline could lead to a chance for true redemption? The car hummed to life, a comforting sound in the midst of uncertainty. Jake gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles white. He glanced in the rearview mirror at Walter, who stood watching them with an unreadable expression. The moment felt heavy, pregnant with potential, yet teetering on the edge of risk. Lily broke the silence, her small voice cutting through the haze. "Can we go to the park first, Dad? I want to play on the swings." "Sure, sweetheart," Jake replied, trying to inject a normalcy into their day. He turned the car onto the road, feeling the weight of his decisions weighing heavily like a storm cloud ready to overflow. As they made their way through familiar streets, he couldn't help but reflect on Walter's offer. A job, managing properties, stability. It felt like a fairy tale in stark contrast to his reality. But the shadows of the past loomed large, a constant reminder of failure, distrust, and regret. Lily gushed about her plans to climb the jungle gym and swing so high she could touch the sky. Her innocent excitement made Jake's heart swell with a mix of love and fear. What kind of future could he provide for her? Could he really step into the unknown, trusting in Walter's promise? At the park, they found a small patch of grass bathed in sunlight. Kids laughing and shouting, their voices mingling with the distant sound of a game of softball. Jake watched as Lily dashed off, her golden hair bouncing with every step. She climbed onto the swings, pumping her legs, squealing with joy, completely free from the weight of the world. He smiled, but as the laughter around him faded to a dull roar, doubts crept back in. Could he really pick up the pieces? Would he be able to sustain a job long enough to share the good life he always wanted for Lily? The fear ignited in his chest, a spark that threatened to turn into flames. Suddenly, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, and a text flashed on the screen. It was from Walter. "Remember, the past doesn't define you. Tomorrow holds possibilities." The message was a lifeline, yet it felt like a rope tied to a boulder sinking in the ocean. Could Walter understand the tidal pull of his own history? Jake stared at the screen, thoughts tumbling in his head. "Dad, watch me!" Lily called from the swings, her face lit with pure joy as she launched herself into the air, feet kicking high. The enthusiasm in her voice pulled him back from the edge of his worries. "I'm watching, sweetie," he shouted back, forcing himself to feign enthusiasm. But he felt a chilling wave of regret wash over him. Could he let her down again? The sun slipped lower in the sky, casting elongated shadows on the ground. As he sat there, an idea struck him. Maybe he didn't have to leap blindly. Maybe he'd find out more about Walter's client before making any decisions. After a few more minutes, Jake approached Lily as she got off the swing, breathless and beaming. "Ready to head home?" Lily nodded, but as they walked back to the car, she asked, "Dad, can we get ice cream now? You promised." He chuckled. "Of course, kiddo. Ice cream it is." As they drove to the ice cream shop, another question filled his thoughts. How to confront Walter again? What if this was the moment to seek clarity on his offer, to assess the risk? Without falling victim to fear, he parked in front of the small shop, its bright colors beckoning. "You wait here, Lily," he said, a sudden decision firming up in his mind. He needed to talk to Walter one more time, to look him in the eye and weigh the trust he was about to consider. "Okay, Dad," she chirped cheerfully, thinking of the sweet treat. But as Jake stepped out, he felt an electrifying sense of purpose come alive in him. The door jingled as he entered, and he took a steadying breath. Just ahead, he spotted Walter sitting at a booth, his expression alert, waiting. "Walter," Jake started, determination weaving into his voice. "I need to know what I'm really getting into, because I can't let my daughter down again." As the words left his mouth, he caught Walter's gaze, and a flicker of something, was it hope, sparkled between them. Would this conversation unearth the necessary clarity or bury him deeper in confusion? A moment stretched between them, a fragile thread waiting for a tug, and Jake was ready to pull. Walter leaned back, assessing Jake with a measured gaze. For a moment, the weight of silence fell heavy around them, thicker than the tension in the air. Jake could feel his heart pounding in his chest, a mix of anxiety and anticipation swirling within him. "Jake," Walter began, his voice low and intentional, "I need to know what I'm really getting into, because I can't let my daughter down again." As the words left his mouth, he caught Walter's gaze, and a flicker of something, was it hope, sparkled between them. Would this conversation unearth the necessary clarity or bury him deeper in confusion? A moment stretched between them, a fragile thread waiting for a tug, and Jake was ready to pull. Walter leaned back, assessing Jake with a measured gaze. For a moment, the weight of silence fell heavy around them, thicker than the tension in the air. Jake could feel his heart pounding in his chest, a mix of anxiety and anticipation swirling within him. "Jake," Walter began, his voice low and intentional, "I wouldn't have offered you this if I didn't believe in you. I know your past is a burden, but it can also be your strength. There's a chance here to change everything." Jake wanted to believe him. He yearned for that shift, that moment where life stopped feeling like a collection of defeats. But what if I fail again? Jake's voice trembled just slightly as he fought to keep his emotions in check. Walter leaned forward, his expression softening. "You won't know unless you try. This client, he's had his share of failures. There's no perfect path, only the courage to move forward after a setback." Jake swallowed hard, taking in Walter's words. Courage. It was a concept he strived for, yet it always seemed so out of reach. "And how do I know this isn't just another ploy?" he asked, disbelief creeping into his voice. Walter nodded, understanding Jake's skepticism completely. "Let me introduce you. Come meet him. I promise, you'll see why this opportunity is different." As Jake processed the idea, excitement danced alongside his trepidation. Was it really possible? A chance to prove they could break the cycle of disappointment? He thought of Lily and the future he desperately wanted for her. "What do I have to lose?" Jake whispered, more to himself than to Walter. "Exactly," Walter replied, a smile breaking through. "Let's set up a meeting for tomorrow. You can ask all the questions you need." Jake felt a rush of nervous energy surge through him. Could he leap into this unknown? "Okay," he said, taking a deep breath. "Let's do it." With that decision, a flicker of hope ignited inside him. It was small, but present, a light breaking through the dense fog of uncertainty. Walter pushed a paper across the table with the details of the meeting, and for a second, everything felt possible. Jake took the paper, feeling as if he was holding more than just a slip of information. It represented the chance for a new life, a chance for stability. As Jake left the booth, a smile creeping onto his face, he felt invigorated, yet the fear lingered in the recesses of his mind. Returning to the car, he spotted Lily staring at him, her eyes bright, teasing strands of hair drifting in the breeze. "Did you talk to Mr. Walter?" she asked eagerly. "Yeah, kiddo, I think something good is about to happen," Jake replied, hoping his facade of confidence reached her. "Yay, ice cream!" she exclaimed, bouncing in her seat. As he drove toward the ice cream shop, Jake couldn't shake off the anticipation mixed with fear. What if it was too good to be true? Would this meeting truly change everything? He parked and headed inside with Lily, the bright colors and sweet scents wrapping around him like a warm hug. As they waited in line, he stole a glance at Walter, who stood just outside, watching him with a knowing smile. And just then, another text buzzed in Jake's pocket. He pulled it out, his heart racing slightly. It was from Walter again, a single line. "You got this." For the first time in a long while, Jake felt the shimmering thread of determination weave through him. He wasn't just a man shackled to his past, he was a father fighting for his daughter's future. He couldn't wait for tomorrow. But before he could get lost in his thoughts, Lily squealed beside him. "Dad, can I have sprinkles?" "Of course, sweet pea," he replied, chuckling at her enthusiasm. But amid the sweetness, another question lingered in his mind. What if this new beginning held unexpected challenges? What would that reveal about himself? As they left the shop, bookended by laughter and sprinkles, Jake felt a storm of emotions brewing inside him, curiosity and fear mingling with an exhilarating thrill. Tomorrow would be pivotal. But would it lead to bonds forged in trust, or unravel everything he thought was possible? The morning sun filtered gently through the window, casting a warm glow over the clutter in Jake's small apartment. It felt like the whole world was awakening as he slowly rubbed sleep from his eyes, the excitement from last night mingling with an undercurrent of anxiety. "Dad!" Lily's voice broke the dawn stillness, a joyful yet urgent call. "I'm ready." Jake hurried to the bathroom, splashing water on his face to wipe away the remnants of both fatigue and doubt. Today was not just another day. It was a stepping stone. The meeting with the client was just hours away. He could hardly wrap his mind around how this could change everything. As he dressed, thoughts drifted to Lily. How was he supposed to explain the weight of the day's significance to her? She was just a kid, innocent and blissfully unaware of the turmoil that had colored his life for so long. Her laughter filled the apartment, a buoy against the tide of his racing heart. "Want pancakes?" he called out while flipping through an old stack of bills, each one a reminder of the financial strain he was desperate to escape. "Yeah, with strawberries," she shouted back, unbothered by his distraction. In the kitchen, he mixed the pancake batter, trying to drown out the swirling doubts. He thought about what Walter had said, courage to move forward. Could he really find that today? When they sat down for breakfast, Lily's enthusiasm seeped into him like syrup on warm pancakes. Their shared laughter echoed off the walls, momentarily dispelling the shadows nipping at the edges of his resolve. "Do you think I'll make a lot of money?" she asked, her innocent curiosity piercing through the mundane as she stuffed her mouth with pancakes. Jake chuckled, his heart swelling with love for her. "Well, kiddo, I'm not sure about a lot, but I definitely want to do something that makes us happy." "Like a superhero?" she said with her eyes wide, her imagination running wild. "Exactly like a superhero," he agreed, charmed by her spirit. The day stretched before him like an open road, with a destination he could only dream of reaching. Time passed too quickly, and the moment grew nearer when he'd need to leave for the meeting. "Dad, it's time," Lily reminded him, bouncing on her toes. As they walked to the car, Jake took a deep breath, reminding himself of what was at stake. Each step felt like a jump into uncertainty. Jake slid into the driver's seat, glancing at Lily in the rearview mirror. Her innocent optimism was contagious. "Are you nervous?" she asked, her brow furrowed in concern. "Just a little," he smiled, trying to mask the anxiety coiling tightly within him. "But that's okay, right?" "Yeah, you'll be brave," she exclaimed, her enthusiasm a reminder of what this was all for. The ride to the meeting location was filled with Lily's chatter about school, oblivious to the gravity of the moment. It warmed him, and the closer they got, the more Jake felt determination take root in his gut, pushing aside the lingering doubts. When they arrived, the building loomed large and intimidating, a stark contrast to the charming girl in the back seat. He parked and turned off the engine, the silence in the car suddenly deafening. "Is this it?" Lily asked, her eyes shining with curiosity. "Yeah, it's our big moment," Jake said, forcing a smile even as his heart raced. "Ready?" "Ready," she beamed. As they stepped out of the car, Jake's phone buzzed again. It was another message from Walter. "Trust yourself, believe in this." Jake held on to the encouragement like a lifeline as they walked toward the entrance, each step echoing with the promise of new beginnings. But just as they reached the doors, a shadow shifted across the ground. Jake turned and saw a figure approaching. His heart dropped. It was someone from his past, a face he never thought he would see again. What did they want, and how would this affect everything he hoped for? Jake's breath hitched in his throat as the silhouette stepped into the sunlight. His heart raced, a mix of fear and confusion flooding his senses. It was Aaron, a face from his past that he had gone to great lengths to forget. Tall and imposing, with a sharp smile that once charmed but now felt like a knife, Aaron had been more than just a friend. "Jake, what a surprise!" Aaron called, feigning enthusiasm, though his eyes glinted with something darker. "Didn't expect to see you here." Jake forced a smile, glancing nervously at Lily, who seemed entirely oblivious to the tension thrumming in the air. "Yeah, well, it's been a minute, hasn't it?" "Longer than a minute, my friend." Aaron stepped closer, his gaze flicking to Lily. "Who's this little bundle of joy?" "This is my daughter, Lily," Jake said, puffing out his chest just a little, protecting her from the storm brewing in his heart. "We're here for a meeting." "Oh," Aaron's grin widened. "With whom? Maybe I can help." Jake felt a jab of irritation. This wasn't a good time. "No, we've got it covered." He shifted, trying to edge around Aaron and toward the entrance. But Aaron sidestepped with surprising agility, blocking their path. "Come on, Jake. Real friends don't just leave each other behind. You know I'm always looking to invest." His tone was placating, but left a sour taste. The very idea felt like a joke. "Invest? That's rich coming from you." Jake's voice was steely, filled with the hurt of past betrayals. "You made your choices, remember?" Lily tugged at Jake's sleeve, her innocent blue eyes darting between the two men. "Dad, can we go?" "Yes, sweetheart," Jake said, rubbing her back to soothe her. He threw another glance at Aaron, steeling himself for whatever was to come. "Look, I only want to focus on this meeting today. Let's keep things professional." "You think I'm here to ruin your day? I'm here to help," Aaron said, his facade cracking for a moment. "But fine, do what you want. I've got more important people to see anyway." Jake watched as he turned to leave, the gravel in his stomach settling just a little. Maybe this wasn't a confrontation, but a chance to restore a bit of his self-esteem. Yet instincts urged him to be careful. You can't outrun the past. It has a way of catching up. As they entered the building, Lily chatted about the bright colors and exciting shapes of the lobby decor, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just moments before. Jake's chest loosened slightly with each giggle, but doubt still whispered in the back of his mind. What if Aaron reached out again? Finally seated in the waiting area, Jake could feel the pulse of tension rise within him. He glanced at his watch. Time felt like a rubber band, stretched thin and ready to snap. As the minutes slipped by, he weighed his thoughts, the fear of what could go wrong clawing at him relentlessly. "Dad?" Lily's tiny voice broke through. "Are you okay?" Jake met her gaze, forcing a smile. "I'm okay, sweetheart, just a bit nervous, that's all." "But we're superheroes today. Superheroes don't get scared, right?" Her innocent proclamation sent a ripple of warmth through him. Right, superheroes always believe in themselves. Just then, a man in a well-fitted suit approached, holding a leather portfolio. "Jake Reynolds?" Jake stood and squared his shoulders, ready to face whatever awaited him. But his mind still flicked back to Aaron. He was determined not to let his past define this moment. "Let's do this," he muttered under his breath as he stepped forward, hand extended. But as he shook the man's hand, the door swung open behind them, and the unmistakable figure of Aaron filled the threshold once more, a smile playing on his lips that sent dread spiraling through Jake. What did he want now? The game was about to change, and Jake could feel the stakes rising higher. Jake's heart dropped. This can't be happening again, he thought, desperately trying to keep his composure in front of Lily and the suited man standing before him. Aaron's cocky stride echoed through his mind like a countdown to disaster. "So sorry to interrupt," Aaron said, his voice dripping with feigned concern. "But I couldn't help but notice you two are having a little reunion." He gestured to Jake and then glanced at the man in the suit. "And I see you've got a date with Destiny there, too." "Can you not do this right now?" Jake snapped, feeling Lily's small hand squeeze tighter around his. "Oh, come on, why not make it fun?" Aaron stepped closer, and Jake fought the urge to step back. "I was just catching up with an old friend. Why don't we all sit down? I'd love to see what Jake has going on these days." Lily, sensing the shift in energy, looked up at her dad, uncertainty etched on her face. "Dad, can we go home?" "No, honey, just a minute," Jake said, forcing his voice to stay calm, though his body felt like it was bracing for impact. He turned to the man in the suit. "I'm sorry, just a little complication." The man raised an eyebrow, a flicker of surprise crossing his face, as Aaron flashed a disarming smile. "It's perfectly fine. Always good to have dynamic conversations in meetings." Jake clenched his fists as Aaron casually leaned against the nearest wall, a cat stretching before the pounce. Laughter felt distant, almost impossible, as his pulse quickened. "Do you remember the last time we all met, Jake?" Aaron continued, folding his arms smugly. "That little venture of ours? How it turned out?" Jake's jaw tightened. Memories of a failed business project and Aaron's role in its unraveling flashed in his mind like a neon sign. The trust he once had was shattered like glass, and the thought of rehashing those moments made bile rise in his throat. "I'd rather not," Jake said firmly. But what about transparency?" Aaron teased, a glint of mischief in his eyes. "You need me, you know that." "Keep your distance, Aaron," Jake warned, his voice low, barely above a whisper. He didn't want to attract any more unnecessary attention, but the tension in the room was unbearable. Lily tugged at his sleeve again, her innocence a stark contrast to the growing storm. "Dad, please, can we go get ice cream?" Jake's heart softened. He knelt down to Lily's level and stroked her hair. "We'll go for ice cream soon, I promise." Suddenly, Aaron cut in, his smile widening, seemingly enjoying Jake's turmoil. "Ice cream sounds great. I know a place nearby. Let's all go together. It'll be fun." "No," Jake replied sharply, unable to hide the urgency in his voice. I said we're fine. We don't need you. The air around them shifted. The man in the suit, sensing the precariousness, cleared his throat. Maybe this isn't the best time to... But Aaron wasn't about to back down. Jake, don't you want to show your daughter what success looks like? We could team up again, get her some nice treats, fancy clothes. The words cut through Jake like icy daggers. He stood, shirt tightened over his chest, resolve hardening. I'll choose what's best for my family. You're not part of that anymore. The words lingered in the air, filled with a weight that pressed down on all present. Aaron stared, his smile faltering for a moment, revealing a flicker of anger before it was masked with feigned indifference. Suit yourself. Just remember, you can't outrun the opportunities I can offer, he shot back, a promise laced with threat. Jake felt a shiver glide down his spine. They weren't just shadows in his past anymore. They were reality, crashing faster than he had prepared for. Dad, Lily whispered again, looking at him with concern. Let's go, sweetheart, Jake said, taking her small hand in his. But as he moved toward the exit, he felt Aaron's gaze burning into his back like a spotlight, teasing him to look one last time. Walking out the door, Jake was already plotting his next move. He had to stay ahead, to protect everything he had fought so hard for. But what if he couldn't escape Aaron's reach this time? Hold on tight, Lily, he said, voice firm. This is just the beginning. But just as they reached the parking lot, another voice called out from behind them. Jake, are you really just going to walk away? Jake's heart stopped. It was more than just a challenge. It was a reminder of the past, forcing him to confront what he feared most. Was he ready for this fight? Jake froze in his tracks, dread knotting in his stomach as he turned slowly. Aaron's voice echoed in his mind, sending shivers down his spine. There was a different tone in his question, one intended to provoke, to throw Jake off balance. Why would you take your daughter into such a dangerous game? Aaron continued, his words dripping with mock concern. Do you really think you can do this alone? The sun blazed overhead, illuminating the world around them, but casting shadows on Jake's heart. He glanced at Lily, whose innocent face was etched with confusion. Dad, can we just go? She pleaded, tugging gently at his hand. Hold on, Lily, Jake said, steadying himself. He inhaled deeply, gathering courage like layers of armor around him. I can handle this. Sure you can, Aaron sneered, stepping forward, invading Jake's space. But you don't have to. I can make you successful again. You just have to let me back in. How many times do I have to reject your offers? Jake snapped, his voice rising, filled with steely resolve. Every time you came back, it only led to more pain. I've gone out of my way to create a life for my daughter, and it doesn't include you. The weight of those words hung heavy in the air, and Aaron's face shifted from feigned camaraderie to barely suppressed fury. You think you can protect her? You think this new opportunity with Walter is it? You're playing a risky game, my friend. You don't know how deep the waters run. Jake clenched his fists, feeling the fire within him igniting. Anger mixed with fear, but it quickly morphed into something more potent, determination. I'm done living in fear of the past. I'm not afraid of you, and I'm not afraid of failing again. He turned to Lily and knelt down, locking eyes with her. Listen, kiddo, what we're building is real. It's about trust and hard work, and I am not going to let anyone come between us. Lily's eyes sparkled with admiration, and for a brief moment, Jake felt like the superhero she believed him to be. Aaron watched with narrowing eyes. That's cute, but naive. Life isn't a fairy tale. You'll soon realize that. Or maybe I'll realize that life begins when you reject the fairy tale you've been sold, Jake shot back, a wave of confidence surging through him. Remember this moment, Jake, Aaron said, his voice low and threatening. You'll regret not listening when the time comes. Without another glance, Jake turned and walked toward their car, Lily's small hand clasped tightly in his. Every step forward was a step away from his past, a step toward reclaiming his present and